All right, so I'm going to make sure that I have everything set up here. If you guys could just type in the chat yes for me to make sure that my chat is actually working. I don't use GoToWebinars often, so I just want to make sure that I can see everything and hear everything. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We have a lot to cover in a very short amount of time here. So what it's called is the 30-minute trader, and this is something that I've been working on for the last couple of months. And the reason why we kind of put this together is because, unfortunately, there's only 24 hours in a day, and I feel like we need 26, 28, just so we can, really have enough time to trade. And just get things done in general. So before I begin, I actually have to cover disclosures as well. So let me go down. Hopefully you can see. For some reason I can't see what you guys are seeing, unfortunately. So hopefully you guys are seeing the disclosure right now. But it's pretty similar. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Don't use capital, as Jeanette just said. Don't trade the milk money. Don't trade with money you can't afford to lose. And then, obviously past performance of any trading system or methodology is not indicative of future results. One big thing that I always get from people is, well, how well are you doing? And I always like to point out, it doesn't matter how well I'm doing with something. What it matters is how well I can teach you to do it yourself. One of the biggest things is you're going to see charts differently and you're going to handle emotions differently. And, that's just trading. You could be taught by the best person in the world, but you'll never have the same results because you're a different person. So focus on how to make you the best possible trader that you can be. And that's what we're here. And hopefully this new 30-minute trader program will work out for you guys. So with that being said, let's go over the agenda real quick. I'm going to cover, who benefits from this type of trading. For anybody to say that this strategy is meant for everybody, it would be incorrect. Different people like different things. Different people want different things. So I'll go through that. I'll talk about what conditions can be traded, not just with this strategy, but all strategies. I'll mention why we're using Nadex and why it matches up particularly well with this type of strategy. Then I'm going to go through and explain what the lunchtime trader is. That's going to be the main focus of today. If obviously by the meaning, it's probably going to be a midday or slow moving market strategy. So that's a little hint. Then I'm going to also review what the news trader is, as well as the overnight trend trader. And all three of these together are part of our 30-minute trader program. So who is this for? So this is for people who work full-time and can't log in during normal working hours. What I find, and I've been teaching people how to trade for about 7-8 years now, one of the biggest obstacles that people have is time. It just, there's never enough of it, unfortunately. So, what we did is we designed a system that can be traded after work or before work or even during lunchtime. So that's kind of who this is for. This is also for people who want to trade at night, as I just mentioned. When I first started trading, I went out there and I found a mentor, and the mentor basically said, I asked him how often he trades, and I expected him to say 4 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours, and he told me 30 minutes, and I was just completely shocked. And I was like, well, what are you doing in 30 minutes? How could you possibly trade in 30 minutes when there's guys sitting out there in front of a computer for 8 hours and 10 hours a day, and computers? Like, how do you do it? I just couldn't believe it. And, he said, I look at the charts for about 15 minutes before I go to bed, and I set those trades up, and then I go to sleep. And when I wake up, I, get back on the charts for about another 15 minutes. I adjust what triggered. I look at the profits or losses that I made overnight. And, I set up any trades for the day, and then I go about with the rest of my day. And I was just completely in shock. I was just, it was against everything that everybody had told me. So this strategy is designed to actually to coincide with that one. As I mentioned, it's for before bed, before work. It's also for people who are scared of losing money. One of the reasons that I've chosen to kind of pair this with Nadex is the fact that Nadex is very, very small risk, and it's kind of built in. There's no way to forget to put a stop loss on. There's been many times over the years where I've been, I'd ask somebody where their stop loss was, and they're like, "Oh, I forgot." And unfortunately, that's where the the big losses come from. It's also designed for people with smaller account sizes. Could you trade this with a large account? You absolutely could. Jack, the founder of Major League Trading, he trades with a larger Nadex account and ended up, 2 weeks ago during the Trump North Korea, he ended up clearing $58,000 with the Nadex account in profit. So, obviously any account size, but it's particularly designed for people with smaller account sizes trying something new. It's for people that want to make money during the lunch break. As I said before, a lot of people can't trade because they have a full-time job. My parents' age, they work 9 to 5. In my generation, they work 8 to 6, not including the 2 hours commute that we have, either direction. And Nadex also only won 8%, but lose 100%. Now, I'll show you how that's absolutely the exact opposite. But we just got to ask a great question. How do you trade but lose, more? And it's one of those things. If you don't understand how something trades or what the rules are, obviously you're not going to do well with it. I mean, if I put someone in front of a futures chart and say trade, you're most likely going to end up losing a whole lot of money. It's all about being educated to trade correctly. And again, small account sizes, small risk. Particularly during lunchtime, that's the hardest time for people to trade because the markets really aren't moving a whole lot. Banks, institutions, big traders, they're all eating lunch, okay? When the markets aren't moving, a lot of traders have a very, very difficult time making money. And it's also for people with a smartphone or a tablet. One of the nice things about Nadex being kind of a new generation exchange, it's just like the NYSE or the NASDAQ. It's just Nadex, binary options. It's a different type of exchange. You can trade it, and they're you can do it on a smartphone, you can do it on a tablet, you can do it on a desktop as well, but it's designed really for people that are on the move. Because it's brand new, the technology is kind of state of the art. It's right up there with everybody else. Now, big question is, who is this not for? This is not for a person who wants to sit there and be in front of a computer for 8 to 10 hours a day and do 2 hours worth of analysis and have 500 indicators on their screen. This is a very simple strategy to teach you to make money and not make things overly complicated. Like I said, if you're that guy that wants to spend 10 hours a day in front of a computer, never go outside, never have time for family, then yeah, you can add this to your kind of currently what you're doing, but you weren't the person that I was thinking of. I was thinking about the person that, wants to make money but has a busy life. All right. So my clicker's not working here. So there's 3 different types of market conditions for a 30-minute trader can trade. And in reality, these are for all traders. The sideways trading market, the trading market, particularly like overnight or before work, is a very common one that we trade in the 30-minute trader. We've actually had a couple of those trades this week. The sideways ranging market, that's more for lunchtime / overnight trading. And that's probably the most frustrating market for traders to trade. For anybody out there that is trading currently, I'm sure, unless you're an options trader, this is probably the worst time for you. Why? Because, you get into the market, it's hard to make money when you buy low and sell low, or buy high and sell high. Most traders need movement to make money. And the strategy actually, particularly today, that I'm going to cover is the sideways market. The other one is the news breakout. This is my personal favorite. Actually, yesterday, there was one of our brand new students who just got enrolled in this. He actually already made money yesterday with it. And, it was a great little testimonial on its, 3rd day of launch. So news trading happens all the time. I'll cover that briefly today. You can do those morning, lunchtime, even at nighttime. So these are the 3 that the 30-minute trader program actually will cover. And I keep clicking the one button and it doesn't go to the next slide. So let me explain why we use Nadex with this. Nadex lets you trade stock indices, forex, commodities, as well as news events from a single account. I started my original trading career with options and stocks, but then I jumped over to start trading currencies, and then I had to have another account. And when I went to futures, then I had to open up a completely another account because I wanted to trade, gold and silver and oil and natural gas. So one of the nice things about Nadex is you can do those all from one single platform, which is unlike anything else out there. Now, Nadex is also designated by the CFTC as a derivatives exchange. And what that means is it's a regulated exchange. So unlike the currencies market, which is unregulated, this has the same regulation as the NYSE or the NASDAQ or the Dow even. But as far as the exchanges, the NASDAQ and the NYSE or the CME. So they are, it's one of those things that a lot of people don't know things about it. They will make claims that, oh, it's this and this and this and this. And maybe at one time it was, but Nadex was none of those things. The other thing too is Nadex makes its money only from exchange fees. It does not take positions in the market. It does not engage in any trading, and it is not a buyer and seller in any transactions. So what does that mean? It means that they're not trading against you. They could care less. All they are is a matcher of orders from buyers and sellers on both sides. So it's not like Nadex is going to be running our stops like in other exchanges with market makers. People kind of misconstrue that as, oh yeah, but I heard this. The other thing too is Nadex binary options. Going into them, just like the standard regular options, you know your maximum profit potential and your maximum loss before you even get into the trade. And what that means is it offers a stop loss regardless of what you do. There's no possible way to get stopped out in an Nadex trade. It's already included in the price getting in. Why is that nice? Because it offers absolute protection versus, trading forex or stock or futures and you putting a stop loss in. If you didn't know, stop loss is not actually a guarantee that you're going to get out at that level. What it is it's a trigger order, and that trigger order is sending a market order in saying, get me out of the markets right now. Well, unfortunately, if the price has shot way, way down, guess where you're getting out at? Not at your stop loss level. You're going to get out where the market is. So it can actually jump or gap past your stop loss, and you're going to lose some more money. Okay. Yeah, Jason, you know what, guys? Jason just typed in, he goes, I keep hearing binary options are like gambling. And Jason, actually, years ago, they were, because binary options were all off-seas organizations, and there was no regulation whatsoever. And it was, people would send thousands of dollars to these offshore brokerage firms to trade binary options, and there was no regulation. They could just literally close shop and disappear, and there was no recourse for it. Nadex came out a few years ago, I want to say like 5 or 6 years ago, and because it's CFTC regulated now, it has not. It's an entirely different world. And like I said before, 9 out of 10 things you've heard about Nadex or about binary options are actually wrong. And that's kind of the olden days when it was still the wild, wild west. It's actually advanced much farther at this point. And I've been trading for, like I said, almost 20 years now. And I can't tell you how excited I was when I found it. And the more I dove into it, I was just blown away. And then again, strategies just started flowing out of the brain. It was like, oh, I could do this and I could do this. And it's actually my primary trading now. The other thing too, guys, that I mentioned with small accounts, you can open up an account with this small balance, $250. And literally you can have that account running in less than 30 minutes live. So it doesn't have the same type of requirements of providing this and providing that and getting approved. It's very, very fast, and the guys over there are great. So if you don't know anything about it, definitely look into it, okay? So let's talk about this sideways market trader. I love talking about this one because this is the most frustrating time. I mean, literally, look at this chart. If you're buying and selling, and this is a 5-minute chart, I mean, this thing is not moving. I mean, half the candles in that graph don't even have any color in them because it opened and closed at the exact same point. I'll tell you right now, it's extremely frustrating, okay? Now, this is typically, this type of lunchtime trader is best suited for lunchtime or overnight trading. Sometimes if nothing's happening overnight, you will typically get range-bound markets. And you would think about it. I mean, who the heck's trading at night? We're sleeping, right? I mean, it is a global economy, but there are certain things that don't move whatsoever, okay? Now, to be able to trade this, you don't need anything big. You don't need special after-hours data. You're not paying any fees or anything like that. I mean, literally all you need is a PC, a smartphone, or a tablet to do it. Okay. Nadex itself actually has its own charts in there, and they're not bad. They actually just released new things. But I mean, you can use anything. If you're looking at overnight currency trades, you can use any currency broker. I mean, most firms have futures data that goes overnight, so you don't need anything. There's no additional requirements for these type of trading. Now, this trading was actually established, and again, I kind of created this, and I didn't create this terminology, but I took this from the options market, okay? If anybody out here is an options trader, you probably have heard of a butterfly spread before, okay? It's a non-directional option strategy when you expect there to be like low volatility and really no movement in price, right? I mean, you're not trading this at news time, okay? I mean, basically you're buying, and if for those of you that aren't familiar with options, okay, ITM means in the money, ATM means at the money, and OTM means out of the money, okay? Basically whether the option has value in it or not, okay? And the whole thing here is you basically want to sell things at wherever the price is currently right now, and then you're covering yourself on the two sides in case there is movement. So you basically, the maximum money you bring in is literally at this peak, and looking at this, it's like, well, that's not bad if it doesn't move, but if it starts moving, then it's kind of like, I have a very fine point of maximum profit potential. But it's cool. I mean, your maximum risk going in. It helps you make money when the markets don't move at all. So it's not bad, right? You know, like I said, could you make it better? Absolutely. Okay. Now, what options traders did is they created something called an iron condor. They said, you know what? I don't like having to be, you know, pinpoint accurate. You know, I don't like having to say, you know what? I got to be right to that exact dollar. I need a little bit more leeway, you know, because this thing's going to move a little bit. It may move up. It may move down. You know, it is what it is. All right. So iron condors are once again the limited risk. They're non-directional strategies, and again, they're used when you expect there to be low price movement. Again, not a volatile trading strategy. Now this one has a little bit more components. You're buying calls and you're buying puts, so it is a little bit more complicated. But just look at the risk graph. Unlike the other one that was kind of a peak, right? It was a pyramid. This one gives you a little bit more wider base. So you are expecting a little tiny bit of movement, but same thing. If it stays within that kind of area, you can make your profit. And if it goes down, same thing. You know, it's very similar to the last one. And you can buy iron condors, you can sell iron condors. I mean, but you guys I just want you to grab the principle of this, okay? One of the things that a lot of people don't know about Nadex is there's only calls over there. There's not calls and puts, so the terminology is slightly different. But I just want you to guys to get the grasp of how the risk, you know, graphs work here. Where the butterfly was a point, this one is kind of a, I don't know the correct term for it. It's not a trapezoid, but it's a little bit what you have a wider base before you start, you know, kind of losing profit in both directions. Okay. So what I did is I combined those two things together, and I really wanted to create what I call a Nadex Butterfly. It has the same idea, the larger shelf, you know, but we're using basically just calls at this point. So I kind of combine, wasn't going to call it an iron butterfly Nadex, you know, too long. Nadex Butterfly is what I call it. Has the same risk curve as an iron condor, but it uses only calls. And you'll notice that literally it's straight up and down. There's no kind of pyramid or decreasing. Jason, actually, I don't think at this point they are open to Canadians yet. I know that's on their radar, but I don't think right now. But good question. So the way Nadex works, if you guys don't know, it's an all or nothing. You're either right or you're wrong. So if you say you bought the, I don't know, if I bought the 24.44 strike price, right? And the price ended at 24.44, I did not win, okay? Because it says greater than 24.44. So that's why the 0.01 is there. I don't need it on the bottom side because obviously that's not greater. But you guys get the idea behind the risk graph. So what we want to do is we want the price to stay between those two strike prices, okay? 24.40 to 24.44, okay? If it stays within there, we make our full profit. If it doesn't, obviously we're going to take a loss, and there's a number of different ways to get out of things. So again, pretty simple, you guys. I just want you to grasp the concept of this one. So here's with me throwing it actually on a chart, okay? Now remember, the whole point of this is you're going to use this when you expect the underlying assets not to rise or fall too much. Are you going to use this at 8:30 in the morning when there's news releases? Absolutely not. Are you going to use it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when FOMC notes are coming out? Absolutely not. Are you going to use this right before non-farm payroll? Absolutely not. Okay. Now, when you're setting this up, okay, these are meant to be short-term trades. Typically, you want to get a risk-to-reward ratio of at least 1-to-1, although you can definitely make it a lot better than that if you want to. You know, when I say 1-to-1, again, Nadex is based off $100. You either make 0 or you make 100 on every trade. You know, there is no in between. So again, if you're risking 50, you're making 50. You know, ideally you want to get it a little bit better than that, 40 or 30 risk to 60 or 70 profit. Okay. The other thing too you want to make sure you look out for is declining volume. Okay. If you have very high volume, there's a lot of people out there, the markets tend to move. One of the signs that traders are leaving the market and not looking at charts is the fact that the volume is going down. Okay. There's no statistical number that it needs to go down so far. Honestly, you'll be able to visually see it on a chart, and it's you know, I'll show you in a sec. Remember, this is a time-based strategy, okay? Because we're taking these trades, obviously time is against us. The more time that passes, the more chance that things are going to move. The shorter time that there is before these expire, the better off you're going to be, okay? Now, what you're doing is because you're covering things on two sides. All right, you're taking two sides of this trade, a top and a bottom. The goal is to take $25 on each side, okay? By taking $25 profit on each side, it will give you your 50 profit. Now, this is where it gets a little confusing to some people, okay? And like I said, you can get a better to 1-to-2 risk to reward ratio. people are confused with this. They're like, wait a second, Brian, you just said it's $100. It's 0 or 100, but I'm only taking 25. I don't understand. It's confusing. Well, here's the thing. There is absolutely no way that price can be above 24.44 and below 24.40 at the same time, is there? No, there's absolutely no way. So one of the two sides is absolutely going to gain. Okay, so if you have risk of 75 on each side, even if you lose one, yeah, you lose $75, but you've made your 25 on the other. There's where your 50 is. Okay. Again, like I said, this is the Nadex Butterfly in the most simplest form. You're risking 50 to make 50. Okay. Now you'll see in the chart on the right hand side, I drew those kind of red trend lines in there. See how the volume during that time period just basically is dead. It's flat. Look how much smaller it is than everything else. Even like slower times, at like 10:30, 11 o'clock, it starts to get slow, but then all of a sudden, boom, price collapses and it just stays flat. And that flat area is much, much lower than any other time during the day. Now, obviously, you don't know that when it's, you're looking at it right there. But typically, when you have that big cliff and it's a very small retrace after that, that's kind of the telltale sign during the day, for those rules. Now, if you look, this time period where it is getting very small and the markets start going sideways, tends to be from 11:45 to 2:15. Okay, so it's not one of those things where like, oh my God, I missed my hour-long window every day. No, there's a pretty good range, and a lot of this too will have to move. It would depend on things like news. All right, so here's an example right here. Butterflies typically work best on 20-minute or 2-hour binaries. Okay, for some of you that didn't know, Nadex has binary options from 5 minutes for currencies, then they do 20 minutes for indices, and then everything has 2-hour binaries. That every hour, boom, another one pops open while the markets are open for the day. Here's an example down here of strike prices in the S&P 500. You have 23.25 on one side and 76. So again, you're 25.75. And if you look, they only have an hour left to go, and there's actually a 4-point spread. So during lunch, we had just shown it before where there was 4 points. Actually, let me see if I can go back up. You guys see this 24.44 to 24.40. Again, there's your 4 points, and this was for what? 2.5 hours. It stayed within that range. Here's a strike right here that literally within 56 minutes, if it stays within that time period, it's the same situation. So these things happen all the time. Okay. Here's an example. Now this one, you'll say, wait a second, there's 2 on the top. Yes, I actually took additional risk on this one because of the time I had remaining in the option. So here was the chart. If you look at the chart, look at the bottom where the volume graph is. See how it flatlined? I marked it off with green. See how we had higher, 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 and then boom, it dropped. So what I did in this situation is I sold not only one, but I sold 2 at the top. Okay, because I couldn't get my $25 based on how much time was left. So on the bottom side, I sold one for, I bought one for 80. Okay. On the top side, I sold 2, a 12.5, a 12.25 and a 19.25. So I kind of broke the rules a little bit. I didn't sell one on the top and buy one on the bottom. I actually sold 2 on the top. So I did take a little bit more risk in this trade, but look at the bottom. I entered this trade at 12:16 in the afternoon. These binary options expired at 12:20. So the trade only had 4 minutes left in there. Okay. On the right-hand side, you can see the payouts. I mean, it literally did move. I think it moved like 0.5 during that time period because again, it was only 4 minutes that it was still there. Hence why I took the trade. And these are just with one contracts. I mean, typically we'll trade much more than one, but again, I wanted to keep things simple so the math was easy for everybody. But if I basically risked $49 and I made $51.50 profit in 4 minutes. Okay. Now again, you could have done this with 2, 3, 4 4 contracts, and you would have had your $200, profit for the day in a matter of 4 minutes. So again, these things can happen very fast. Could you have done this during your lunch break? Sure. If your lunch break was at 12, you could have definitely had 16 minutes to find this trade, make sure it works, and go from there. So that's why this is very exciting. Again, most traders are looking at this and saying, man, the price didn't move at all. I'm going to lunch and that's it. Well, if you're at your desk, great. Log in, make, $50, $100, $200. I mean, I don't know many people that are out at lunch and they make, $50 to $100 in 4 minutes typically, it's the exact opposite, depending on what city you live in, you're spending $20 just on lunch and everything else associated with it. So that's why it's pretty exciting for traders that are trading these strategies. Okay, here's another one. Now this one, I follow the rules. Look at the profit. I'm going to actually take a screenshot of this one so you guys could see where the volume was definitely crashing. I mean, it was down to like nothing, right? and I got one for 30 on the top side and 75 on the bottom. So I actually got a little bit better than the 50 to 50, you know, the 1-to-1. And once again, both contracts came back through. Okay. Now this one was a much tighter spread. You'll see here, it was a 64.5 to a 63.5. But again, because the volume had just disintegrated, there was no news. Again, it was one that I liked very, very much. Okay. I got into it and it flatlined on me and it ended right there. Okay. And literally it ended its expiration value. If you guys can see it, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor on the right-hand side, but you see what the expiration value was at 24.64? It was literally smack dead in the middle of these two strikes. And this is a product of the volume declining. Okay. Now there are some more advanced indicators that some people have. I'm sure you may see some today. Jeanette put a great group of people together, and some of them have some absolutely stunning and amazing indicators that they use. I'm just trying to keep this simple for you guys as well. All right, so here's another one. Okay, this is actually done on a weekly trade, and it's for Japan. So I don't know how many people out here actually trade the Nikkei or the Japanese market, but you actually can trade that with Nadex. Now, this was a butterfly that was set up from August 6th to August 10th, and you can see this. If you look at the top, this is an hourly chart. Literally for a month and a half, the Nikkei has been stuck within this range. Okay, this kind of these bars that I put in was a 200 pip range, or I'm sorry, a 200 point range. Now, I don't typically look at the Japanese, the markets. I will a little bit for currencies, but this trade was actually set up on a Sunday night. How did I find this trade? Literally, when I logged in, Nadex informs you of the holiday schedule. If anybody's off, they're very upfront, they're very transparent. And they literally said, okay, here, we have normal business hours, but Friday, there will be no contracts offered because it's a holiday in Japan. So the first thing I'm thinking is, wait a second, so it's a shortened week. It's only 4 days instead of 5. I wonder what type of news. I mean, because think about it. You know, if the markets are all closed on Friday in the United States, how many traders are taking off those days before just so they can get the extra, long weekend? A lot of people, right? So there's really typically not much. So I dove in, I went on Forex Factory, and I realized that there was almost absolutely no Japanese news that entire week. It was like the whole country was taking off. And what was I thinking? It really hasn't moved out of that range in the last, month and a half. There's no news this week, and there was news all during that time period. There could potentially be a butterfly trade set up here, Nadex Butterfly. So I went in there and I kind of saw what prices I could get, and I got good ones. I got 32 on the one side, and I got a cheap 72.5 on the bottom side, right? So I got more on the top side, right, and I got more on the bottom side. I liked it. My ideal goal was $60, right? Again, 60 is not going to pay the mortgage, but it was only one contract. Again, I'm using ones in here to show you guys how these worked, right? From where in the bottom chart, you'll see where the red dotted lines are. Okay, if you can see my mouse, the red dotted lines. This was Sunday night when I got into this trade. So I had a 200 point range for 4 days, and I was like, man, that's pretty good. And I made it through all of Monday, all of Tuesday, all of Wednesday, and that's where I took the screenshot. So we're still looking good, right? I have 1 day to go. Okay, now this is where this kind of gets funny, and the reason I put this in here is because, again, not every trade works 100% of the time, and I want to be transparent about that. I take some losers every so often as well. What happened that Wednesday night? Does anybody know? That would be North Korea. North Korea and Trump shooting missiles back and forth at each other. And that's what caused actually this big spike here. Was there any way to plan for that? Absolutely not. Did I know what my maximum risk was going into the trade? Absolutely. The nice thing about this is, with the advanced exits on these things, you can also take absolutely zero loss. Okay? There's ways to get out of this to where you will actually take no loss whatsoever in the trade. Okay, that's kind of the added benefit. People are saying, I forget who it was earlier, typed, oh, well, you can be right 80% of the time but still lose money. Maybe when you don't know what you're doing. But when you do know what you're doing, you can take trades like this that last for 3.5 days, and I didn't lose anything on it at all. I don't know many markets. I mean, if you had been in futures, if you had shorted this in futures and all of a sudden the missile talk happened, when this sucker gapped down, your stop loss, they would have been laughing at you because you would have lost a ton of money on this. I didn't. I was actually out right here. Okay. So after this big move, right, I'm shooting missiles to you. I'm bringing fire and whatever, fire and fury. What did it do again? It literally flatlined. It didn't do anything else until the end of the week where it closed. So had this drama not happened, where do you think this one would have ended? Probably smack dead right over here. If you had copied this and placed it here, it would have been a great trade. So again, Was it a good trade? I was trying to find a reason not to take it. I couldn't find one. I took the trade because that's what my rules said. A geopolitical event happened that nobody in the world could have predicted ahead of time. It cost me a trade. End of story. But again, was the strategy viable? Absolutely. And again, this is a weekly trade. So overnight, weekly, the biggest thing is low volatility and no news. So again, that's why this is very, very exciting for me in particular, because, people see this and they're like, oh, this is so boring. Yeah, but making money is not boring. So that's why we trade. Okay. So let me just go over news trading as I'm burning through my time here. So news trading, like I said, is my favorite. This week was a little funky on news, particularly with Jackson Hole. But we actually had some traders that had been in this, been doing these strategies for less than a week and actually made money yesterday. So it's great. But news traders, there's two different outcomes when economic news releases happen. If news comes out and they said it's going to be 150,000 new jobs, and it comes out and it's 150,000 new jobs, guess what? There's not going to be any news trades that day. It's not really going to move that much because the market has already factored it in. Now, if the news is wrong, okay, does bad news ever happen? Does wrong news ever happen? Yeah, probably about 75% of the time they miss. If you guys have ever watched oil, I mean, this week oil hit dead on, but I think it's the second or third time in the entire year that it's actually been correct on the forecast. But it happens all the time. Now, when does news happen? There are news releases at 4:30 in the morning. That Australian and Japanese news. Between 8 and 10:30, at 2 o'clock when FOMC notes and big guys are speaking, and then also 9:30 at night. When Australia and Asia. I'm sorry, 4:30 a.m. is London. 9:30 at night is Australia and the Asian sessions. So news happens 24 hours a day. There's probably 15 to 20 different setups every single week in news trading. So I don't care if it's before work, after work, door trade, okay? Now, here's what a news trade looks like, okay? News trades are taken on the exact opposite time as the lunchtime trade. Where you want no news before, obviously for news trading, you do want news. And there's things like oil inventory, FOMC, non-farm payroll. As I said before, there's 15 to 20 every single week that are viable trades to take. You want something to happen. You want these guys to be wrong on a forecast. You want them to say that oil inventories are going to be, down 3.3, million, right? And then all of a sudden we find out that we're down 8 million. You're like, woohoo, price shoots up through the roof. You're out of a trade super quick, okay? Now, at the bottom here, there's two different trades. One of them was a Nadex spread, which is not a spread that we created. It's actually one of the products that they have. I was able to make, I think my risk on this one total was like $13. Worst case scenario, I would have lost $13. But I ended up, making 84 on that one. Same thing on the other side. On that one, I got in for it. I think I want to say like $22 and ended up banking $100 on that one. I mean, you can see very, very fast. News released at 10:15 in the morning, price shoots up and then flatlines. Very kind of, storybook type, typical, this is what happens. This is news. This is August 10th, okay? And these were live trades. I absolutely love this strategy. It's one of my, by far, favorites. We get asked all the time, well, how do we trade news? How do we trade news? Well, guess what? I mean, I set this trade up literally, I think 7 or 8 minutes. I'm sorry. I set this one up 18 minutes on this one before the news came out. So if I was busy and I literally logged onto my computer real quick or logged onto my smartphone, I knew that there was news coming up because my phone alerted me that, we have major news in 30 minutes, which, by the way, you can do. You can have your smartphone kind of give you a, looks like you're getting a text message to alert you when news releases are coming so you don't miss any of them. And literally went in there, saw it, the prices made sense, and entered it, and boom, came out of there with, I think total, I think on both sides of this, I ended up making like $130 in a matter of less than 30 minutes, okay? Very, very fast, low risk, worst case scenario, I would have lost, I think, total between the two, I think I would have lost $30 and ended up clearing like 130 on it. Again, keeping it small, as far as, so you can see it. All right. So, here's two examples. Again, the natural gas trade, it wasn't even that big of a jump, and natural gas is not considered like a major market mover just because it doesn't move the overall market, but obviously it moves the prices of natural gas. But look at the one on the right. Okay. This is the Canadian dollar GDP, right? July 28th. Okay. It was expected to be, the forecast was 0.2% and it came in at 0.6%. So they were just a little bit off. Look at that thing. That's a 5-minute chart. Okay. In 15 minutes, that thing dropped 100 points in the dollar Canadian currency pair. That's a big move, okay? These things happen all the time. You know, you could have traded the same strategy with your spot currency account. You could have traded it, you know, with Nadex. Again, it was a little bit cheaper to do with Nadex. The spreads widen pretty high on big releases and currency pairs. But the difference is the leverage going in with Nadex was much better. So I took this one and I did the spot currency chart. As well as I can take both directions. In a currencies chart, like if I was spot currency trading, I can't be long and short at the same exact time. But in Nadex, I absolutely can. And that's one of the big advantages and why news trading is so fun. So what about the overnight trader? So here's something that's a little bit crazy that a lot of people don't see this. How do I do that? Just stay with me, Jason. So the overnight trend trader. So if you look at the chart on the right, okay, where that thing starts is 6:11 p.m. Okay, that red line, if you guys see this red dot right in the middle, there's kind of a bullseye on it right now. This is 6:11 p.m. This is 9:30 a.m. This thing moved 12 3/4 points in the middle of the night when nobody was trading. So think about that. Is there opportunity in the middle of the night to make money? Of course there is. Are you kidding me? Overnight trend trades can be set between 6 and 10 p.m. Eastern. Okay, they're low risk typically because there's typically no news, there's no institutions, there's no big traders in the market to really move things around. Okay, now until from 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. in the morning or 4 a.m. in the morning when London comes online, it's only the Asian session, and they typically they have a little bit of effect on our markets, but unless they have like a bank intervention, typically what they do doesn't affect kind of the charts too much. So there's amazing opportunity, and this is the S&P 500, guys. The S&P 500. I mean, most traders are looking to get 2 to 4 points. Futures traders are looking to get 2 points or 4 points a day. This moved 12.75 overnight. All right. The big thing is the markets are moving 24 hours a day, so why not make money while you're sleeping? I'll tell you right now, and it's kind of like it's funny. It's kind of like the quote that I'm getting, kind of like tied up to. It's waking up in the green. Waking up in the morning knowing that you've already made money and seeing that you've already made money is a great feeling. It lowers your stress. I mean, literally, if you have a profit target every day and you wake up and you've already made that profit target, how much stress do you have on you for the rest of the day? You don't. It's as simple as that. It's amazing. So here's an overnight trend trade. Actual, one that we did was with profitable. The chart at the top, this is showing you how much the NQ moved overnight. Going back days and days and days. So far when I had taken this trade this night, this was the move. It moved 268. Okay, so basically 26 points. Okay, night before 384. Night before 23. So a small mover, right? Open to close. Not going to work every day. This one, 530 in the middle of the night. And again, these red lines, guys, this is from 6 to 9. Okay, 6 p.m. to 9 in the morning. So again, 19 points, 38 points, 53 points, 2 points, 38 points, 26 points. You guys see how much movement happens when we're all sleeping? Is Nadex 1 point equals 1 pip? Yep, for currencies it is. So you can see, guys, very, very small buy-in. Okay, got in over here at 59.09, got out at 59.07. $75 profit. I had $25 risk in there. That's what it cost me to get into this whole thing. All the money came back to me, obviously, with the payout. $75 on that overnight trade. 1 to 3 risk to reward ratio. Okay. Now, nice thing about this overnight trend trader is the fact that you have the ability to take these things. You can get out at any time. You don't have to hold things till expiration. This is one of those ones that literally I got out of it in the middle of the night. Okay. I mean, it's actually this one we were out at basically 10 o'clock. Okay. So again, from 6 to 10 p.m. when I was making dinner, putting my kids down, giving them a bath, reading them a book, I was making money behind the scenes. Okay. So again, happens very, very quickly. Okay. Now, here's another overnight trend trade that we set up. This is what I'm talking about, waking up in the green. We actually have an alert service that we run with this. You can see this is the up in this green box. This is the text message that I sent out to students. I sent this out about what is it over here? 8 o'clock is when I sent this alert out, because I literally send this out and then I take the trade live every time I send one out. We're going to take 3 p.m. strikes, risking $16 to $20. And once you double your risk, $30, $40 in profit, go ahead and take your stuff out. There's no need to be greedy. Hold it till expiration. Get your money and leave. And you'll notice right here, I set the, I set an order and I said, okay, listen, when I make 50 bucks on this trade, take me out of it. My maximum risk was 16. We got into profit very quick, so my risk had basically eaten itself up. And here you go. At 5:07 a.m. in the morning, guess what happened? It took me out with a $50 profit. Now you say, yeah, I'm not paying Brian, I'm not paying my mortgage at 50 bucks. I don't care. Remember, I'm doing this so the math is very, very simple. Okay. If you have an account and you're willing to risk 160 bucks in the opposite direction, right? Say, if your account size is of the size that you say, you know what, if I'm risking my 1% or, my 2% of my account, I can take a $160 risk. It's worth it to me. And if you're a currencies trader with a standard lot, $160 is 16 pips. 16 pips is really not a lot of risk in any trade, particularly overnight with one standard lot. Okay. Difference over on this side is, you risk 160, you're making 500 in the other direction. So, and again, it's not that the $16 comes off the 500, that's $500 pure profit. So imagine waking up and seeing an email that at 5:07 in the morning, you just made your $500 for the day. See, that's kind of how these things work when you're able to find these trends overnight. So again, awesome stuff. I love doing it. That's again, no time, low analysis, and that's how you get into these things. All right. So, what are your next steps? First thing is open up an Nadex demo account if you don't have one. Try it out. It doesn't cost anything. A demo account is free. See if you like it. If you have no education with it, you're probably not going to do great with it. I mean, they offer some great training on their website to kind of explain things. You can use their charting, and if you don't have, their charting, then install charting software of your choice. I mean, if you want to, look at currencies and try Nadex with currencies, and open up like an FXCM account. They're free. You can get the US dollar on there. Doesn't cost you anything. You can go to Thinkorswim and open up a Thinkorswim account. The data is going to be, a little delayed, but, for indices, but you can still try things overnight. I mean, 15-minute delay overnight is really not anything big. And if you're really excited about these things and really want to know more about it, then get enrolled in the 30-minute trader program, where we cover all three of these different setups, to go overnight. The complete 30-minute trader course is very simple. It's what I've talked about today in a lot more detail, the Nadex Butterfly course, how to pick the correct strikes, how to do understand the charting aspect of it. The news breakout course is a separate course. That one actually was launched yesterday or Thursday afternoon. Then there's the overnight trend trader. So, I mean, depending on what your work schedule is, you're going to focus on a specific course first. All three of them come in the complete trader course. We also throw in a Thinkorswim Nadex indicator. The Nadex indicator is so it can put strike prices up. When you talk about doing this in less than 30 minutes, one of the biggest tools that I use is the fact that when I look at a chart and I use this indicator on there and it paints everything out, a lot of times the trades pop out. They're like, oh, of course I would take that trade. It's stuck between these two strikes, and it's perfect. I'm taking that one. And literally my analysis happens almost instantly. We also send nightly trade videos where we talk about what we have, what we think going on. And then because, of the kind of partnership we have, we're actually going to give you guys 1 month of Nadex alerts, kind of like that alert that I gave you the slide before. This one was one of the alerts that came out. Actually, we're adding it to be 1 month, but because we're still at the pre-release stage, we'd actually give you the next 5 days for free, and then all of September. So it's actually a little bit more than 1 month that's included in there. So if you were to purchase those things, it's a value of $448. So right now, the retail cost for this is $249 is what we're selling it on the website. It is pre-release, but this is what the price is going to be when it comes out. Due to Jeanette and everything that she does for us, and because we're at a pre-release stage, I'll explain that in a second, the Toasted Traders discount is $149. Now, currently right now, you're saying, what do you mean by pre-release? Well, we're in the pre-launch phase right now. News Breakout is already out. Butterfly, I believe, is next, and then Overnight Trend Traders 3 days. So everything actually will be out and live by September 1st in the next 5 days. But right now, based off the timing of these things, we only have one of them out. Alerts are working great. Actually, one of the students that got into this last weekend, we did a small run for our current student population at Major League Trading. And one of the gentlemen, Ty, the first alert that came out, that one I just showed you, he made $148 on that first alert and paid for his course on Monday. The same guy as the guy yesterday. I mean, literally, we released the course on Thursday morning, and yesterday in our trade room, he was talking about how he hit another one of the news breakouts with the whole Jackson Hole situation. So, I mean, people are absorbing the trading very, very fast, particularly the news one, because that's the one that's out. and it's exciting to see people making money with it already. You know, whenever you make something and people are already profiting from it, it's really, really a great feeling for me. The way that you get enrolled is you go to www.majorleaguetrading.com/30M, as in 30-minute trader. We tried not to make it too difficult or too crazy, but it was very, very simple to go to keep it easy. So here's what we have going on right now. I believe I changed all the dates. Alerts, yep, alerts started Monday the 21st. They're running through September 29th. So you get that the rest of August plus 1 month. The full release of all 3 courses is going to be out on September 1st. I'm actually one of the newer guys at Major League Trading. I came across about 2 months ago and started working with these guys. And the first thing I wanted to do was upgrade our learning software. So we actually just launched a brand new learning management software website for our members. In our education now, we have quizzes to make sure that you guys are grasping the information. It's broken down even more, and then we have course studies and topics. So it was a big overhaul to kind of bring all these things across and launch a course. But I can say that we successfully launched the news trading breakout course on Thursday, and like I said, students are already making money from it. Overnight Trend Trader actually is going to be the next one that will be out by the 29th. I'm just finishing that and doing the recordings right now for it. I have to add the rest of the quizzes too. Every chapter has a quiz. And then the butterfly course, what I talked about today, that will be the last one out. That will be out by September 1st. So it's pretty exciting. We're glad to be offering a discount to everybody over here because this is a great relationship we have with Jeanette, and we're very appreciative to be on with the group. And that's what it is. It's been exciting. It's been a crazy week with launching and trading and alerts. But it's a lot of fun, and it's a strategy that people are grasping. So hopefully it's something that you guys can grab from this training as well today. I know it was fast and it was like drinking through a fire hose, but hopefully I gave you enough information to go ahead and get started with things. All right. So that's where we are right now. It's $149, and if you guys have any questions, I can kind of type them in there and answer them. And I think I have a couple minutes to answer anything if you guys have specific questions. Ozzy, that's a great question. Ozzy asked, if these are directional trades, how do you know which direction to pick in advance? Ozzy, we have a couple different ways that we go ahead and do it. One of the things that we find a lot of time is because there's not a lot of big traders in overnight trading, once the direction kind of is picked, it tends to stay that way. Markets are trending about 70% of the time. So the important thing is to make sure that there are no major obstacles in your way, one, but two, to make sure that it's already established a trend. It isn't really doing sideways. And we have a couple different ways that we establish trend. Jack has one, I have one, Eric has one. We typically are, sometimes 2 out of 3 of us agree, but for the most part, we're typically all 3 of us agree in which direction we think it's going, particularly in the overnight. All bets are off once, the news and traders come back in the morning. But typically for the overnight ones, we're between all 3 of our methods, we typically are always on the same direction. Are there any binary brokers in Canada? Jason, I don't know. I don't live in Canada. My wife's from Canada, and I believe that Nadex is not there yet, but I know that they're looking to go that direction. We actually have a very close relationship with Nadex. I don't talk to them, but Jack and Eric are talking to them typically 2 to 3 times a week. And that's one of the things that we've asked them to do, or where, we've tried to figure out on the timeline, where is that on the timeline, and when will Canada be able to trade it? So it's something that they're working on as well. What about alerts on its own? Alerts anybody can get. Alerts are basically just they're sent to your cell phone. Okay, we can send them anywhere we want. We feel that a lot of people wanted them email wise, but we felt that text messages was the best and fastest way to get those things out to people. We take them all live, and we just felt that if we're giving them out, we need to make sure that we're taking them live too. And if I don't have, and we typically shoot to get I'd say the goal is to get you one good one every day. If I can't find one, I'm not going to send one out just to make it the one. I'll just make sure that I make it up to you guys later on. Second month alerts cost. Actually, we don't have an actual price on that one. We're probably going to do it in 6-month and 12-month packages. So not sure about that one yet. It's probably less than $150 a month though. That's kind of what we've debated and talked about. So sorry, I don't have an exact answer on that one for you. Tell them Vanguard FX. I'm not sure what do you mean by Michael with Vanguard FX? Okay, any other questions? What is the probability of success with these strategies? Glenn, like I said, it's going to be different for every single person. The news trades, like I said, it depends on the breakdown. I did a case study recently with oil and natural gas. Natural gas has been right. Again, talking about their forecast. Their forecast has been correct, I believe. I'm on a different computer. I think their forecast has been right 4 times this year. And I'd say of all the news trades that we took, I'd say we're probably just over 75% with the winners on that one. Typically, it follows the news. If there's a move, it's typically profitable the way that we set it up. There are a few break even in there as well, but for the most part, the news ones are good. The overnight ones are typically like an example. This week we had an overnight one that didn't work. I think we risked $11 on it, but then we ended up making like 80 like 2 days later. So the overnight ones are a little bit different. The news are the highest probability of all of them. The lunchtime ones also depend on what you're trading. So I don't want to give you a specific kind of answer on that one because I don't have it of what the probability is. But the news is the highest probability, followed very, very closely by the overnights. The hardest one to grasp is the sideways one. Can you execute a Nadex Butterfly prior to news and take advantage of low volatility? The answer is, John, can you? The answer is yes, but it's dangerous. Okay. Because here's the thing. So the Nadex Butterfly, it's hard because there is a lot of volatility in there, and it's a low volatility based strategy. I mean, and here's the thing: you can buy butterflies, but you can also sell butterflies. You can do you can do either direction. There are 2 sides of these things. So, would I want to execute the butterfly strategy I just showed you during a news time? No. Like, would I have done it yesterday with Draghi? No, because all Draghi has to do is say one thing that they're going to hold rates longer or do something like that, and then boom, things kind of move around. It's just you're just adding a little bit of risk that isn't necessary from that. I hope that answers your question on that one, John. Okay, so yeah, so you can't use Nadex. So yes, there are off-seas brokerage firms. Like I said, I don't have experience with them. I know people that have had bad experiences with them. You can still use the same exact strategies anywhere. You just want to make sure that it's a reputable broker. Like I said, I'm in the United States, so I'm bound by U.S. law, and Nadex is regulated in the United States. So can you trade these same strategies anywhere that you wanted with binary options? Yes, you could. But like I said, I can't trade anything overseas, so I don't have experience trading those. So that's entirely up to you, Mac. Do you have a win percentage on average for the types of trades you take? Thomas, I take all kinds of things, so no, I haven't broken it down that much. My main priority with these 3 has been to launch them, to get them out in time. So no, I don't. Since I created this course, I have not kept track of it. No, sorry. Thank you. All scams gotten $1,000 taken. Mike, are you talking about going overseas? I've heard similar things about people going overseas. Yeah. I mean, that guys, Michael said, yeah, he's like the overseas ones. Yeah. I mean, if you have nothing else better, then I guess maybe it's worth it. But to me, if you live in the United States, I would only use Nadex. I wouldn't go overseas to try anything because there's no repercussions for them just to walk away with it. So, yeah, I don't know Vantage FX, but I'll look into that one, Michael. I really appreciate that because we do have a ton of people from Canada that want to trade these. Doesn't have ladder options like Nadex though. Oh, okay. So they don't do the spreads then. Okay, which is a shame because the spreads are awesome. The spreads are really, really good. Those are some of my favorite ones over there. All right, guys. So at this point, I don't want to go over my time. I know when I was a speaker later in the day, I was a little bit late, and I don't want to do that to anybody else here. So if you haven't gotten enrolled, go to majorleaguetrading.com/30 minutes. I am actually the one who does the alerts, and I respond to alerts. So if I send it, you have a question, and you text message back, I will actually probably respond within typically 30 minutes. Typically, it depends if I'm at the computer or not. I definitely want to make sure that if anybody that does get enrolled, we definitely support you guys. And any questions that you have, leave comments, send emails in, and I want to make sure we can support you as best as we possibly can. So $149, like I said, one of our students, Ty, made that money back on his first day. There's no promises or guarantees it's going to happen, but Ty did it on the first day, and then one day into the course, he literally got it again. So I mean, Ty's rocking it, and the guy's been in this process for less than a week. So it's not a very difficult training. It's one that's easy to master, and hopefully you guys can make your money back very fast with it. And we'll go from there.